All right, so let's get started. And if you see that you have any questions, you can type them in chat. You can ask them out loud. How do we transform our old Aleph system number into a new system number for publishing to another system? And can this be done with normalization rule? Well, yes, transforming fields and changing the text is quite easy with normalization rules. And what you need to do is, I prepared the rules in advance. You need to have two rules because, as you can see in the question, you want both the content to change and the subfield to change. And you need to either first change the subfield, then the content, or the other way around. You can't do it simultaneously because if you're changing the subfield, then the system won't know which subfield you're trying to change. It's better to separate it into two rules, and let's see how this works in Alma. Okay, so I go into metadata editor, which is where we work with normalization rules, at least building them. We can then apply them in other ways. We will talk about that a bit later. And it's taking a little longer than usual to load. Let's see something. Ah, okay. Now we got it working. Open metadata editor. There we go. So I prepared a test record to make it easier to demonstrate some of the questions. And a trick for anyone who works a lot with normalization rules. A normalization rule for testing, it's connected to a process, and you'll see that when you want to use a normalization rule for bulk changes on many records, for import profiles, for external resources, you will need to connect it to a process. Instead of every time you test a new rule, creating a process for it, you can just have one testing rule created with one testing process and then apply it to whatever you need to do in your sandbox. And when you're pleased with the rule, copy it into a regular rule with a proper name and everything and a proper process in your production and use it. But it's a lot easier if you do it this way to test. So let's put our rules in here and let's look at them a bit, okay? I chose to replace the content first and the subfield after. It's not really that important. You can do it either way. What I want to show is the priority. When you're doing two things, when you have two or more rules in one normalization rule, you want to add a priority. The priority just tells Alma which order to apply the rules in, and it takes the highest priority first, meaning priority 2 will run first, priority 1 will run afterwards. If we had priority 9, that would run before 2. Pretty easy, really. And then our condition is when true, then replace contents. We want to get rid of the aleph in brackets and change it with MNU aleph. And replace contents UMNO1 with nothing because we want to remove it. And that's the change contents. Afterwards, change the subfield 035A, change subfield, to Z. So if we look at our 035 that I prepared in advance according to the question and preview our normalization rule, we can see that it changed just as requested, subfield Z, MNU in brackets, aleph, number, no UMNO1 at the end. So that's simple enough. Any questions? Let's just have a look at the chat. I can see that Daniela has a bit of a problem connecting. but hopefully that will improve. Can everyone else hear okay? Well, let's hope that they can.
No?
That's good, thank you. All right, so if no other questions, let's get back to the questions. Okay. Our second question is, can you retrospectively apply normalization to lots of records at once without having to go into each of them separately? And the answer is yes, of course you can. The idea of the rules is to save us work. If we had to go into each separate record and apply the rule, that would create more work. We could just go and change the record manually. The rules allow us to build a process, test it in the metadata editor, but where they really shine is when they do our work for us, and that's when they clean up our imported records or they fix up our catalog and clean that up. And the way you do it is this way. Let's have a look at this rule that I prepared in advance. And I really like cognitive neuroscience, so our rule is cognitive neuroscience is cool, and when the subject of our resource is cognitive neuroscience or cognitive neuroscience followed by anything else, if it has a full stop at the end, if it doesn't, if it has any other related subject that start with cognitive neuroscience, that's what the asterisk is for. Then we add a 900 local field saying cognitive neuroscience is cool, because it's true. And we can see that we have cognitive neuroscience with a full stop at the end in a 650 field. And if I preview this rule, I can see that I added a 900 field. Okay? Now, if I search Alma, well, I actually did that already, so let's save some work. Come on. If I go to Manage Sets, I prepared in advance a set called Cognitive Neuroscience, and it has 12 cognitive neuroscience related resources in it, and we can edit one. Let's go for human communication. And we can see that it has cognitive neuroscience in a 650 field, so it should be affected by the rule we created. Let's release it. So I have my rule and I have my set that I want to run it on. What I'm missing is a process. Like I said before, if I want to run a normalization rule on a set of records, I need to have a process for it. How do I do that? I go to the resource configuration menu. I go to metadata configuration under cataloging. I go to the relevant, in this case, Mark 21 bibliographic. There's a way to do this with holding, but it's a little bit different. And I go to the normalization processes. Here I can add a process, but I already have one made up, I think. Well, possibly I don't. Let's create one. Maybe I left it to show you. So let's call it cognitive neuroscience. And let's put that in the description as well. You see that the description is mandatory. And next. And what I want to add here, I have a few options. What I want to add is the marked rule normalization. That's rules that I created in the metadata editor. There's also some hard-coded ones, and I can add that as well. If I want, after my normalization, if I deleted things, if I changed things, if I want to have clear empty fields at the end so that anything I deleted will be cleared and I won't end up with empty fields, which is the same thing that operates when I save a record. When you save a record in Alma, unless you remove this from normalize on save, the out-of-the-box way in Alma is that anything empty, any empty fields gets cleared away. I can do that here. If I had a rule that deleted things, I would put this here. You can also do a resequence. There's a few things that you can do. But right now, all we want to do is add a field. And here we choose which of the rules that we have that are enabled in our metadata editor we want to run. In this case, the cognitive neuroscience tag. And we save it. And here it is, the cognitive neuroscience process. And now it's really very easy. We run a job. We select the Mark 21 bib normalization, and we see all our processes that are relevant are right here, including cognitive neuroscience. We select it. We select the set that we want to run it on, and the set can be very big. In this case it's 12, but it can be thousands. We make sure that the right tag, the right rule is selected here. Click next. Ask for it to run. Submit. We're about to affect 12 members of the set, or up to 12 members. Confirm. All right, and the job is running. Let's see if it's real quick. How about instead of waiting for it, it shouldn't take long, but instead of waiting for it, let's see if there are any questions. Anyone? Speak up right in the chat. Everything clear so far. That's good. Okay, so let's let that run and get back to that later and look at the next question. Okay, so this question looks a bit complicated, but it's not really. The question is about content of one subfield being divided into several subfields. In this case, field 653 is in the format of several keywords, all separated by a semicolon. And the question is, can this be separated into different 653 fields, one for each keyword? And the question is no, I'm sorry, but currently in Alma, you cannot operate normalization rules on parts of subfields. You can only operate them on subfields and above. So this would be an enhancement request. But you have a way to make and vote for enhancement requests. So if you find this an exciting prospect, you can enter it and vote for it and take Alma somewhere you want it to go. And our next question, is it possible to set a rule to strip a subfield from a mark field on import? For example, we want to remove the price from the ISBN. And yes, you absolutely can do this. Like I said, the place where normalization rules bring the most advantage to the system is in import profiles and when cleaning up the catalog. So it's a pretty easy rule to write. Let's have a look at it. Let's just see. Oh, before we do that, let's look at our normalization that we ran, and it completed successfully on 12 records. So let's look at the set. Manage sets. results. And here's the record that we looked at before. And here it is. Cognitive neuroscience is cool. So it worked. It changed our records. That makes me happy. Okay, so now let's go back to our example record and see if we can remove the subfield C, the price, from the ISBN. When you split your screen with this button, you can edit your normalization rule while seeing the record and also preview the effects. It's very useful. So just a reminder, we want to remove subfield C from field 020. And I have prepared this rule in advance as well, just to save some time. And we will put it into Alma. Okay, really easy. When true, then remove subfield 020C. And if we preview it, there it is, all gone. So an easy enough rule to write, but that's not what we asked about, right? We want to know if we can apply it to an imported record. So let's look at this XML. Well, this will be easy. And we can see that one of the 020s has a subfield C. Okay? And let's import it into Alma and see what happens. I've created, because I needed a process for it, this rule in Alma, a proper rule, remove 020C. I've created a process for it. Let's look at the processes. Remove 020C. And it has in it a marked rule normalization, and the task parameters are the remove 020C that I created. So that's all good. And I've also created an import profile to test this with. I just need to remember what I named it. Oh, here it is. Import and normalize. And if I look at this profile, it doesn't have much in it. The important bit is it's upload files, so I can upload my file into it. And it uses the remove 020C process when it normalizes the record that it imports. So let's import something. Let's import our record. Run import. Our import record. Submit. Let's give it a second. Let's see if there's any questions in the meantime. There's a person waiting in the lobby. Now they're in. Welcome, newcomers. Anyone? Any questions so far? Everything clear? That's great. And it's imported. And if we want to look at the imported records, here it is. I defined it to be hidden from discovery, suppressed. And we can see that there is no subfield C here. Right? That's the one that had a subfield C. But that didn't come through. Alma cleaned that up upon import. So yes, you can definitely do that with a normalization rule and an import profile. Okay. One more chance to ask questions about that, and then we move on to the next question. All right. So, when applying normalization rule to search external resources, we want a normalization rule that only keeps certain 650 tags. I'm not even gonna try to read that because I'm not sure how. And gets rid of all other values, such as local. So let's look at this example from the International Meat Trade Jennifer Spencer from BVB. I defined BVB in our demo environment, so we can search in it. And our title was the International Meat Trade. I accidentally, I think, added the author's name to the title, but you'll forgive me. And search. Oh wait, no, I'm searching from the wrong resource. Well, we'll refine the search. And do it again. And here it is, the International Meat Trade. And if we view it, we can see that it has multiple 650 fields. Some have no subfield 2. Some have the subfield 2 that we want. And some have local. And what we want to do is define BVB to remove anything but this one and these two, right? So how do we do that? Let's go to our rules. And let's look at remove 650 field for specific values, which is actually remove 650 fields when there are no specific values, but never mind. And it's pretty easy. When true, then remove field 650 if not exists 652. And this is an OR. The pipe can be used now in Alma as an OR. I think that's pretty new and exciting. And you can use that in your conditions. So you don't have to write two rules for this anymore. You can just use an OR Boolean indicator. And I put the condition inside my rule and not as the condition, because the condition here, when, then, applies across the record. So if I have any 650 field that has fast in subfield 2, this rule wouldn't apply because it exists and the condition is not met. However, when I put the rule in here, it applies per field. So it removes a specific 650 field if the rule does not apply, or if the rule applies to it specifically. So every 650 field is considered individually. That's really important. You need to carefully choose where you put your condition. And since it's very important, I'm gonna do a quick break and see if anybody has a question about that. Everybody got that? Okay, I see a question from Chris about a bug where you can't add two separate rule files to a process. I'm not sure if that's still, if that was fixed already. I think it's still there, so it's better to have several rules sorted by priority within one normalization rule and apply that through the process, and not have a separate rule for each thing you want to do and use two rules in the rule. I'm not sure if that was fixed already or not. I can look into that. you can send a question to the education team and we can look into that. All right. So we want to apply this rule to an external resource. How do we do that? Well, first thing we do is we create a process. Let's see if I already did that. Or we can create it right now. So we want the Mark 21 bibliographic and the normalization processes. And here it is, BVB, remove 650. And the task parameters are correct. And now we need to apply it to an external resource. So we go to the resource configuration menu. And we go to the external search resources. We need to have a profile and everything. We need to be able to search, but where we have normalization is in the resource itself. And here it is, BVB, and I want to edit it. And right here I have the ability to apply a normalization process. And I apply my process, and I save. And now I'm going to search BVB again for the same record that we've seen before. I should have taken a print screen. Would have been so much more exciting. International meat trade. Right. Search. And here it is, the very same. And if I view it now, look what happened to my 650s. I can no longer see the ones, even in the preview, that don't answer my rule, because this is what it would look like if I imported the record into my system. And just to prove that, I will do that now. $650, we only have the 3 that abide by the rule that we set for this external resource. So the answer to your question is yes, you can absolutely do this. Any questions on that? Someone was waiting in the lobby. Welcome. Everything is clear? All right. Then we'll move on to the next question. Okay, I had a couple of questions on this, so I put them together. Copying a subfield into an existing field without creating a new field. Right now, when you copy in Alma, copy a field or a subfield, it creates a new field. So if I do copy 700A to 700B, I would have a new 700B with the content. Or I can change subfield A to subfield B and then have the content in that subfield. You don't have a way to copy subfield into an existing field at the moment. So you can't append a subfield to another existing field, and you can't copy a subfield within the same field duplicated. You can just change it. Copy subfield would be an enhancement request, but again, you now can place them and vote for them. So if it's something a lot of people want, you can push it ahead. Let's look at the next question. We would like to be able to copy subfield data. Can we do this now? If not, will it be available in the future? For example, we would like to replace 008 field position 7 to 10 with the data in 260C. So like I said, copying subfield, is everything okay? Something? Question? Anyone? Okay. So, like I said, copying subfield information is not something that you can currently do in Alma. However, specifically for 008 position 7 to 10, what you can do is create the right data have the 260C as a condition, which dictates what the 008 will contain. And since that's a bit of a complicated idea, let's look at it. And we can look at it in the online help. This is the online help page for normalization rules, syntax, and examples, and it's very useful and I highly recommend using it. And specifically, what we want to look at is example 53. Let's find it. Here it is. 53. Fix and populate 008 year positions 7 to 10 from 260C or 264C. And what this rule does is it looks at the 260C, and if it has the content 1999 with anything after it, see the asterisk? It replaces the control content 008 with 1999. If it has 2000, it replaces it with 2000. If it has 2001, it replaces it with 2001. And you can just have any years you like, have one rule, and from there on, let it run. And I would like to take this opportunity to show you something new in Alma from the June release, really. So really, really new. Let's open a normalization rule to edit. So you want to create a normalization rule and you're not sure how to do it, or you know that it already exists. You can go to Edit, Add Rule, and there are quite many out-of-the-box normalization rules that you can just choose. In this case, Fix and Populate 008. You can choose it, and you have years 2010 to 2015 already here. We plan to have, in one of the next few releases, I hope, a better version of this rule that extends all the way back to the 1970s and also has the asterisk in the condition, because you see this one doesn't have the asterisk, so if there's a full stop after the year, it won't fulfill the condition and won't work. So you might want to add the asterisk after the year in the conditions. But it saves a lot of time because you don't have to write it. And even if the rules that you want to write are not among the examples, you can use them to save some work. So if I want to add field 950 and not 949, I can take this and just change the numbers here. And it will save me some time, and all the syntax is correct, and all the capital letters are in place, and it saves some work. So that's new and exciting, and you're welcome to use it. Let's look at the next question. Or let's see if there are any questions on this before we continue. Anything? Anyone? Okay. The next question is it possible to merge different subfields? Either in the same field, for example, if you have 773TG and 773X, just have them into one subfield, or into a new field. Copy 245A and B into one single 773T, and the question is no. You can't at the moment merge subfields in Alma. That would be an enhancement request for the normalization rules. Next question. How can I write a normalization rule that will add a 774 field with multiple subfields to a set of records when the field or subfields don't already exist in that set of records? For example, we want to add a 774 with the first indicator 1 and no second indicator, with subfield T methods in cell biology and subfield W with this number. Yes, you can add subfields, and you can add this field with everything you want in it. And I prepared this. Let's find it. Here it is. Let's copy that into Alma. No. And look what happens. So we want to look at a record while we're working on it so we can see its effect.
This is no, that's all.
Is there a question? I can't really hear. No, someone just wasn't muted. Okay, so let's get back to the rule. So right now we don't have a 774 field, so we just add one. This one has when true, so always add field 774 first indicator 1, no second indicator, with the subfield, and add subfield 774W with this number. Let's see what happens. Here it is, 774 first indicator 1, subfield T, subfield W, just as was requested. Let's see what happens if we add a condition, say when not exists 774. So right now there is no 774, so this should still apply, right? Here it is. However, if we had a 774, exists. And we wanted to apply the rule. 774 is here. You see that our 774 exists, and therefore no new 774 applied. So yes, you can add this rule, and you can add this field, and you can also only add it if you don't already have it. You can even say 774 with first indicator 1 and this content in it, or part of this content in it, and it will just apply to that. So it's very, very flexible how you can add fields and in what conditions. Any questions? Nothing so far. No one's typing, no one's talking. Let's continue. Okay. How can I write a normalization rule to remove a subfield with specific text when there is more than one of the same subfield? For example, we have an 856 field with two subfield Z's, and we want to delete the full text online subfield while not removing the other subfield Z. So that's pretty easy. I put in an 856 with two subfield Z's. I know there's no subfield U, it's just supposed to be an example. Full text online and another subfield Z, and what we want to do is remove this one but not this one. And the way to do that is to just empty the subfield. Emptying the subfield is practically removing it because it will be removed upon save, or if you have a process, if you're running it on many subfields, you can add, after the normalization rule, the clear empty fields task that I've shown you before, and that will clear any empty fields and subfields. So if you delete all the content of a subfield and then add the right task to the process or just save the record, it will be deleted. So let's look at this. Rule empty subfield. When true, then replace contents 856Z full text online with nothing. Here it is, full text online. We preview, and it's empty. It's still here, but it's empty. However, if I apply the changes, we can see an empty subfield, and when I save the record, here it is. It's all gone. Okay, so if you know the text in a subfield and you want to delete just the specific subfield with that text, it's easily done. Any questions? That was clear? Good. Let's go on to the next question. I think we might make it through all the questions. I'm very excited. I was sure there were too many. I want to add a 710 tag with text if it doesn't exist. The text is sometimes followed by a full stop. When it exists with no full stop, I want to append it with a full stop. Okay. So right now, when you add a text with a full stop, the full stop doesn't get added in. But you can add it later. So let's look at how to do that. So first what we want to do is add a 710 if it doesn't exist. I have a compilation error. I'll look into that in a second. I did test it. Okay, so what I want to do is add a 710 if there's no text or text. So first thing is, I would like to see, yes, no viable alternative. Huh, that's funny. I tested this before showing it. Oh, of course. I accidentally left the title. Now it should run. So if I try it now, I'll get nothing because I already have the 710 with a text in it. And if I add a full stop at the end, come on. Aha. I will still have nothing because, oh, hey, didn't add. $710 text with a full stop. Oh, here it is. And for some reason it did add another one. So this is not quite working for us. I guess we have a bug when we have a not exist 710 here. But since we saw that it does work when it's inside, I think we can have it here. If not exists, preview. Let's see. Okay, so we have a bit of a problem with the full stop. So yeah, there's a bug here. You can open a case for that. However, if you have records that either have a full stop or not, and you want to append a full stop when it doesn't exist, you can do that. That's the second rule here. And this time I'm taking it without the title. Okay, so we'll remove the full stop here. And our rule says, when true, then suffix 710A with a full stop, if exists 710A text, and we preview it. And here it is. It added the full stop at the end. So you can do that. Okay. Before we continue, any questions on that? Yes, is someone speaking? No, no one's typing? Okay. Is it possible to create new normalization rules for display type government document, microfiche, and ebook? So let's look at Alma. And there's actually an out-of-the-box rule. Let's look at out-of-the-box. Edit, add rule. And what we want is the rule add field 900 depending on values in 008. No, I think that's not the right one. There's more than one for the 008. Edit, add rule. The rule is called add field 900 with subfield. Where are you? Huh. Well, I can't find it right here at the moment, but it does exist in the online help. So let's search for 008. Aha, example 51. Rule add field 900 with subfield a government doc if 008 has a U in position 17 and an F in position 21. Maybe it was the one I was looking at. And I got a bit confused. Right? It's 17 and an F in position 21. Yeah, it's this one. And let's look at 008. Right now, I don't think it does. You know, if you do Control F, you can look at 008 a lot easier. This works in the LDR field as well. And we're interested in position 17. Position 17, 15 to 17 as X's. And we're interested in position 21. And there's nothing. So this should not apply. And it doesn't apply. See, we didn't have a 900 government doc. And if we change the 008 to have you know what? I think maybe I'm not sure why position 17 should have a U in it. So let's make it easier on ourselves and delete the first one and just look at 21. Control F. 21. And we want to have a U. How about we look at 23? I think maybe something is wrong with the out of the box rule. I will ask. But government doc. Well, let's just look at the one I built before I knew there was an out of the box one. So you can do it one way or another. You can change the 008 according to another field, or you can change another field according to the 008. Let's look at changing the 008 according to something else. Say, if I have a 950 field saying microfish, change the 008 to be a B, and you can see that right now it's R. If we preview that, we can see that it becomes AB. So you can do that. And you can do if exists 008. Actually, let's just do this. If exists '08 position 23 B, then I'm just trying to save the microfish because I'm not sure I can spell it this time in the morning. You'll excuse me. Then add field, let's say 900 a microfish. And remove this. Let's see if I got it right. Right now it shouldn't edit because we don't have a B. Failed during compilation. That's a shame. When exists, then add field. Let's look at the 008s in the that should be okay. Oh, of course. Control fields and data fields are a bit different. So since 008 is a... Oh, come on. It didn't copy paste. Since 008 is a control field, we don't use exists. We use exists control. Rookie mistake on my part. And that should fix it. So right now it shouldn't work because there's an R. And note that the 950 was already there, and now we're adding a 900. And if I change the 008, and position 23, B, now we have it. So you can toy with the 008 and have things added to your record according to what's in it, or changed in it according to what's in your record. No problem at all. All right, I think that was our last question. Yes, it was. And we're also right out of time. So any questions before we go off? I see a question. No, that's the question I answered before. American government documents, position 28 with 1 in it. Um, let's have a look. Ah, presenting is complicated. Position 28. We want to see position 28. So I don't see it in the drop down, but you can change things in 008 without the drop down by just, doing things in here. And you can, anything you can change manually, pretty much. If it's content change, you can change with a normalization rule. That should work. Any other questions? Okay. So I'm not sure. I don't know the American government docs that well, but you can probably do it. Let's see if it says something about it here. Federal national, maybe F. So you can just change position 28. What you have here, 008, what we have here is the position and how many characters we want to change. So you can have 28-1 and change it into an F, and that will work. Any other questions? Okay then. It was very nice giving this session. I hope you enjoyed it. And have a good day, good evening, depending on where you are. And goodbye.